So next we have Andy Mitchell. He is a grassroots campaigner on social security and welfare issues, which started with the experience of a series of traumatic benefit sanctions. And Andy understood just how awfully people are treated by the benefit system. He's a member of Unite, the chair of his branch, and has been campaigning with Unite, fighting against the increase in in-work conditionality. He's also a proud member of DPAC, and last year was privileged to be invited to the United Nations Committee for the Rights of Disabled People in Geneva to speak about his experiences as a disabled claimant. I was very proud to join him there, and he is an absolutely phenomenal activist. So over to you, thank you.
Hi everyone. Thanks for having me here today. I should say that I wrote my speech at about 1 o'clock this morning, so it might be a bit rubbish, but hopefully not. I was given a brief to explain what DPAC are doing to fight against these proposed cuts, but I think I'd be here all day if I did that. To DPAC members though, it's not just the benefit cuts we are fighting, but also the assisted dying bill. And I know many people have found it extremely hard to cope with both at the same time. And I must say, I think it's a real missed opportunity. There is no motion at this conference to discuss it. It doesn't matter what side you're on, I just think it's important. That said, I'm here to talk about benefit cuts, so I better get on with it. So DPAC are helping to organise the People's Assembly National Demo that's on Saturday, the 7th of June. We're speaking to MPs almost on a daily basis. We held a protest outside Downing Street, which got national attention, and the images that came from it are used almost every day in the media. We helped organise a lobby of MPs and raise money so disabled people could afford to travel to London. We've written briefings, we've attended meetings online and in person. We've been interviewed for podcasts and regional television. We've attended the Work and Pension Select Committee. We speak at events like this, and local groups have protested all around the country. John McDonnell said to us at the beginning of the year that we need to fill social media to keep the cuts in the public consciousness. As the local elections revealed, I think we have achieved that, but we will continue to do so until we win. We've also helped get people to MP surgeries. We've emailed every MP, and we've encouraged people to share their stories. Just this weekend, hundreds of people, many of them DPAC members and trade unionists, protested in East London, Leeds and Louth. DPAC members have also attended the shambolic consultations. I went to the one in Plymouth. We were given 24 hours notice of the venue, so only 9 of us turned up. That's out of 15. There were only 15 people invited to that consultation. DPAC members made up the majority consulted inside and the majority of people protesting outside. The whole thing was a farce. We've not done our campaigning alone, of course. Groups of all types have joined us, with trade unions providing help and practical support. Not a day has gone by since these proposals were leaked that DPAC members have not done something to highlight the injustice of these proposed cuts. Cuts that will have a devastating effect, not just on claimants, but on their families and wider communities. It's worth remembering that 1 in 3 PIP claimants have dependent children. A lot of what we do is not seen. Every day I get messaged by people sharing their stories. Some of these messages I get through the Ben Claimant Twitter account, and it has left me in tears. On 2 occasions, I've been so concerned I've rang the police. Fortunately, they were able to identify them, carry out welfare checks, and offer them local support. I've lost count of the number of times people have told me about their fears, panic, their anxiety and stress. Some have written about self-harm and suicidal thoughts. I'm not trained to deal with this, but I try to do the best I can. And I know that a lot of the DPAC steering group are doing the same. I've been campaigning for 13 years on issues around social security, but it's never been this bad. We used to say Tory cuts kill, and many people have died. John, often talks about the number of suicides, as he did earlier today. And the journalist John Pring has written about it in his book, The Department. But now, if Labour goes ahead with what they're proposing, it is not going to be 1 in 10 people affected. It is going to be so much worse. Part of my TUC brief was to talk about who was likely to be affected. Every time the subject comes up on TV, someone dismissively talks about people with bad backs or overdiagnosed mental health conditions. Well, I'm one of those people who struggles with both. And on the days my back is really bad, I struggle to breathe and I can only walk a few meters. At the moment, I cannot lie down to sleep in a bed as it causes so much pain. So instead at home, I sleep upright in a sofa chair. I've been doing this for almost a year. My depression can be equally debilitating, and I go through periods when I cannot leave the flat due to agoraphobia. It frustrates the heck out of me when I have to cancel at the last moment. I hate being unreliable because I cannot get out the front door to get in the car. I've learnt to live with it, but it can be extremely tiring and frustrating. These proposals that the government are talking about will affect me directly. I will lose £4,500 a year. Now, I'm also migrating to universal credit at the moment. I was on the ESA support, and the two things are linked. And I'll go on to say how much that is going to cost in a minute. These cuts are much wider than bad backs and poor mental health. A recent FOI revealed the conditions that are most likely to be affected. 24% of people with cerebral palsy, a quarter of cancer patients, 25% of people with MS, and 75% of people living with chronic pain or arthritis, just to name but a few. Back pain comes at the top with 79%. Within trade unions, there's now much talk about neurodiversity. Around 1 in 4 people on PIP with ADHD or autistic spectrum conditions will lose out because they no longer meet the 4-point rule for daily living. Another Freedom of Information to DWP reveals that the number of people affected will be much higher than the Green Paper suggests. 46% of claimants who currently get PIP daily living will lose out. 87% who get the standard rate and 13% who get the highest award. That's around 1.6 to 1.8 million. The abolition of the work capability assessment will mean that those who lose PIP due to the 4-point rule also stand to lose the health element of universal credit. This double whammy could mean 900,000 people losing between £9,000 and £10,700 a year. Now, it's a bit of an unfair comparison, but compare that to the Birmingham bin workers who are striking because 150 of them stand to lose £8,000 from their wages. Now, I'm one of those people. I'm likely to lose both. And if that happens, I've just bought a car. I've just spent £15,000 on a car. Now, if I lose that money, I won't be able to run it and I'll have to sell it. So it means my freedom, my mobility is gone. The government says these reforms will save £5 billion a year by 2029-30. But the Child Poverty Action Group says this figure masks the long-term impact, which will add an additional £5 billion a year. They also say the number of children pushed into poverty will be 150,000, not the 50,000 stated by DWP. They also point out that 700,000 families affected by these cuts are already living in poverty. This group is not mentioned in any government statistics because they don't register as an increase. Losing PIP could mean losing other passported benefits and support, including top-ups to other benefits, such as housing benefit and pension credit. It could mean losing the 1-bedroom local housing rate for under 35s, who would then be expected to receive the lower shared housing accommodation rate. 71% of those affected by the bedroom tax are disabled households. Getting the PIP daily living component means they can claim an exemption. Without it, it means higher rent. They could also lose council tax support. It also exempts people from the benefit cap, which otherwise limits the amount of benefit income you can get. PIP also helps with travel, as you can apply for rail cards, free local bus travel, and vehicle tax discounts. Councils will also take PIP into account when they work out how much you need to pay for care services. And of course, the many who rely on blue badges will lose out. There is so much this proposal doesn't consider, it is quite staggering. Losing PIP has a knock-on impact, not just on individual claimants, but their wider families. PIP is a gateway to receiving carers allowance, worth around £4,300 a year. Now, John has mentioned the figure 150,000 unpaid carers will lose their carers allowance, or the UC carers element. However, Citizens Advice think this is an underestimate, pointing out that many carers are disabled themselves. 190,000 get both PIP and carers allowance, and 95% of them receive the daily living component. Now, the National Audit Office says DWP need at least 2,000 more staff, and they have reduced that support given to claimants because the workloads of work coaches supporting staff are so high. So how on earth can they deal with claimants when so many get moved into the conditionality regime? The Green Paper says they will redeploy staff to support disabled people, not employ new staff to cope with the extra numbers. Furthermore, ministers have taken no account of the Social Security Advisory Committee, who say disabled people need tailored, quality support, not the substandard training that is common from third-party contractors. Right, I'm coming to an end before I get told off. I've only touched upon a few of the changes that will cause great harm to claimants and their families. Starmer told the Sun newspaper that he has the balls to be ruthless, but there is nothing big about throwing the poorest and most disabled people in society and their children into poverty and destitution. There is nothing cool about choosing war over welfare. What the local elections showed us is their policy to push people towards reform, which makes it even more urgent that we build a united and strong resistance that is based on principles of fairness and solidarity. There is a huge fear out there, so it is up to those who are able to ramp up the pressure. DPAC will continue to push MPs to vote against these vicious cuts, and we will continue to organise locally to show we will not tolerate these changes. This, however, is not just a disability issue. This is a class issue, and we urge everyone to join us to fight against these cuts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andy. And these are the kind of arguments that we need to be armed with when we're lobbying our MPs, when we're responding to the Green Paper consultation, when we are trying to influence and change the minds of people that we talk to every day who think that the government's plans are sensible. We've got to be in a position to do that.